HOA Karen band, Grandpa's old radio didn't know Mom's. The neighborhood was a postcard of suburban perfection, manicured lawns, white picket fences, and the kind of quiet that screamed order. But the air crackled with tension that evening, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Karen, the HOA president, had just declared war on an old man's radio, and nobody saw the storm coming. It started innocently enough. I'm Marcus, a 32-year-old mechanic who'd moved into Willow Creek to care for my grandfather, Pops. After his stroke, Pops was a quiet soul, his days spent tinkering with his ancient Zenith radio, its warm hum filling our small bungalow with jazz and old talk shows. That radio was his lifeline, a tether to the world he'd known before his body betrayed him. Every evening, he'd sit on the porch, eyes closed, letting the music carry him back to better days. The neighbors loved it, Mrs. Delaney would sway to the tunes from her garden, and kids would stop their bikes to listen. It was harmless, a soft rebellion against the sterile silence of Willow Creek. But Karen didn't see it that way. Karen Whitaker, with her bleached blonde bob and a clipboard she wielded like a scepter, was the self-appointed queen of the HOA. She'd patrol the streets in her golf cart, her eyes scanning for violations, grass too tall, mailboxes too faded, or, God forbid, a porch light too bright. She'd fine you for breathing if she could write it up as excessive carbon output. Pops's radio, with its faint crackle and occasional static, was her latest obsession. It's a disturbance. She'd snapped at me one morning, slapping a violation notice on our door. No amplified sound after 6 p.m. Rule 17b. I tried reasoning with her. Pops kept the volume low, barely audible past our yard, but Karen's smirk told me she wasn't here for reason. She was here for control. The conflict simmered for weeks. Karen would drive by, slowing her cart to glare at Pops as he sat with his radio. She'd send emails, each more aggressive than the last, quoting bylaws like scripture. I'd see Pops's hands tremble as he read them, his pride stung by her accusations of being a nuisance. I begged him to ignore her, but he'd mutter, "She don't know what this radio means. Marcus, it's all I got left of your grandma." They'd bought that Zenith together in '68, a wedding gift to themselves. Every song was a memory of her laughter. I swore I'd fight for him, but Karen was relentless. Then came the twist nobody expected. My mom, Judge Evelyn Carter, decided to visit. Mom was a federal judge, a woman who'd climbed from a small-town law practice to a courtroom where her word was law. She kept her work private, so nobody in Willow Creek knew who she was, just Marcus's mom, stopping by for a week. She arrived quietly, her sharp eyes taking in the neighborhood's pristine facade. Pops lit up when she hugged him, and for a moment, the radio played Ella Fitzgerald, and all was right with the world. But Karen didn't let peace last. One evening, as Mom sipped coffee on the porch with Pops, Karen's golf cart screeched to a stop. She stormed up, clipboard in hand, and pointed at the radio. "This is your final warning," she barked. "That thing's a public nuisance, and I'm confiscating it." Pops clutched the radio, his voice shaky but firm. "You ain't taking this. Karen, it's mine." Her eyes narrowed, and in a flash of arrogance, she grabbed the radio from his hands. The old Zenith hit the ground hard, its wooden casing splintering, tubes sparking as it let out a final, pitiful whine. Pops gasped, clutching his chest, and I lunged forward, shouting, "What the hell?" Karen. The neighbors, drawn by the commotion, gathered on their lawns, whispering. Mom stepped forward, her voice low but cutting. "You just destroyed personal property. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Karen scoffed, oblivious to the shift in the air. "I'm enforcing the rules. You people don't belong here if you can't follow them." She didn't notice the crowd's murmurs turning to outrage, or the way Mrs. Delaney, a retired librarian, slipped away to make a call. Karen's power trip had blinded her to the storm brewing. The next day, the neighborhood buzzed with a new energy. Mrs. Delaney had called her nephew, a local reporter named Tim, who'd been itching for a story about HOA overreach. Tim showed up with a camera, interviewing neighbors who'd had enough of Karen's tyranny. Stories poured out fines for kids' chalk drawings, threats over holiday decorations, even a dog banned for excessive barking when it was just a puppy. But Pops's radio was the breaking point. Tim's article hit the local paper the next morning with a photo of the shattered Zenith and a headline, HOA president smashes elderly man's treasured radio. Social media exploded, with Drumreach Justice for Pops trending locally by noon. Karen doubled down, posting a defensive screed on the HOA's private group, claiming she was protecting property values, but the neighbors weren't buying it. At the next HOA meeting, held in the community center, the room was packed. Karen stood at the podium, her usual smugness faltering as she faced a sea of angry faces. I stood beside Pops, who held a photo of him and Grandma with the radio, his eyes wet but determined. Mom sat in the front row, her expression unreadable, her blazer crisp as ever. Then came the high noon of this suburban showdown. A neighbor, Mr. Patel, stood up and read from the HOA bylaws, Karen's sacred text. Section 12. The president may not seize property without a board vote. The room erupted in gasps. Karen's face went pale. That's not how it works, she stammered. But Mr. Patel wasn't done. He revealed he'd been secretly recording HOA meetings for months, catching Karen admitting she bent rules to teach people a lesson. The crowd roared, demanding her resignation. Mom stood, her voice calm but commanding. Ms. Whitaker, I'm Judge Evelyn Carter, U.S. District Court. What you did to my father's radio wasn't just a violation of your own rules, it was theft and destruction of property. The room went silent. Karen's jaw dropped, her clipboard slipping from her hands. You're a judge, she whispered. Mom nodded. And I'm filing a formal complaint. You'll be hearing from my attorney. The fallout was swift and brutal. Karen's reign crumbled as the board voted unanimously to remove her. The local news ran a follow-up story, exposing her history of bullying. Turns out, she'd been sued twice before in other neighborhoods for similar stunts. Pop's radio couldn't be saved, but the community rallied, raising funds to buy him a new one. At a block party a week later, Pop sat on his porch, a sleek new radio playing Billie Holiday, a small smile on his face. Karen, meanwhile, was spotted packing her car, her house listed for sale. Rumor had it she was moving to a condo where HOAs didn't exist. Ironic justice. As the music played, I looked at Mom, who sipped her coffee, her eyes soft but proud. She didn't know who she was messing with, she said quietly. The neighbors danced, kids laughed, and for the first time in months, Willow Creek felt like a home, not a battlefield. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or should she have gotten a second chance? Share your thoughts below.